When we started with the Carbon Expo in 2004, those were the early days of the carbon markets and the clean development mechanism. And we felt that it was important that project entities and administrators from developing countries find a platform to interact with buyers who were largely from Europe. And that's how the idea took root. And in the beginning, we would ferry in people and we would have discussions around ideas. But the overall theme of having plenaries and side events and workshops emerged in the next couple of years. So we've seen some very heady times, more or less linked to the price of carbon. When a ton of CO2 equivalent was selling for 13 euros, this place would be packed, 3,000 plus people. And a lot of transactions would be carried out during the expo, buyers meeting sellers and agreeing on terms for doing carbon. So the typical person who would come to the expo from a developing country would either be a designated national entity in charge of maximizing their business, or a project entity looking to find a buyer for a specific project carbon sort of quantum, or the auditors, the guys who measure and verify and carry out the sort of underlying due diligence on CDM projects. If you look around today, these are largely absent. What you have now is a large focus on climate finance, on technology, on what the future holds. For the first time ever, in this expo, we had a plenary on landscapes and forests. We had a side event on how to go about this. So there is, we've tried to stay consistent with the changing nature of the climate conversations. This is now the 11th successive expo, and we've stayed with it through thick and thin. There have been times when it was really sort of looking very dismal, and we'd wonder whether we can continue doing this. But the line that we took was that whatever happens, the World Bank will be the last man standing on this, and we have not walked away from it. The Spanish government has been very supportive in recent years, and we are optimistic that we'll be able to continue taking this forward. Depending on what comes out of Paris, there will be a need next year to interpret that for the private sector and for sectors in general. We also do other events in Africa, etc., which focus on regions. But next year we'll be back in Cologne for another expo, and we hope to do this for 2-3 years beyond that as well, up to 2020. That's the broad brush.
What about expansion around the world? Because I suppose when you look at where the sort of geopolitical axis of carbon markets, it does still rest in Europe at the moment, but times are changing. As you can see around this arena, there are a lot of Chinese faces, there are a lot of people from the US, there are people here from Nepal, I've noticed, from Uganda. What scope is there to expand this to China and India and other parts of the world which perhaps are also interested in this sector?
Indeed, that's a very interesting question. Just for your information, we actually took a version of the expo to Beijing in 2007, I believe it was. And like here, it was very heavily sort of subscribed, and a lot of people came. But that was the time when they were looking to find a place in the market. We do actually have regional versions of this. We call them sort of the carbon forums, but we have a Latin America carbon forum, we have an Africa carbon forum that took place just in April, and we have one in Asia where the World Bank is not so heavily involved, but the International Emissions Trading Association, with which we work, is the prime leader on that one. In the Africa and LAC versions, we work with the UN agencies. So depending on the location, we do have something similar, and again the focus has shifted slightly away from carbon markets to look at what's coming in terms of the future, the Green Carbon Fund, what will access to that look like. We are now, this year, everybody's focusing on what should intended nationally determined contributions, the INDCs that we think might be the sort of vehicles for future financial requests. What will they look like, and what due diligence will they need? So there's always a requirement, a need for this kind of product line. And we have faithfully been sort of pushing the envelope on that to see what is wanted and how can we respond. The World Bank doesn't try to sort of invent these things, but what would good practice look like, and what can we learn from the past in terms of the measurement, verification, reporting, the things we've done in the past well. How would that be modified or aligned to the future? That's the message there.
And you talked a bit about landscapes, which is interesting because that's a kind of issue which is growing among many countries, a real interest in sort of afforestation projects, land restoration. It was a huge issue in Lima at the climate talks out there. Do you think, is that an area you see also potential to build on, and perhaps another way of pulling in more developing countries?
Indeed, the Africa Carbon Forum this year was focused very heavily on the landscape aspect of development. So we don't look at it only as afforestation. Because, let's say the first generation of carbon market products looked at reforestation and afforestation. Since then, we moved to what is well known as REDD+, the sort of the avoidance of deforestation in a sense, and it's moved to land degradation. The sort of the elephant in the room, if you will, for the landscape discussion is the status of agriculture in the climate talks. This is somewhat divisive because some countries feel that they don't want it regulated in any way. Others sort of look to the sequestration potential and the fact that 25% of emissions are from landscapes, and therefore feel that there needs to be a way to finance action in that space. REDD+, etc., covers the tropical forest space. And this is also the space where more than 1 billion people in the world depend on for livelihoods. So people who depend on forests and landscapes and are very poor. This plays perfectly into the sort of the score sheet for the World Bank's own work in poverty eradication. So for us, this is really important. What we need to find a way to do is to bring this into an integrated land use management process where you don't only manage forests, you don't only manage agriculture, you manage everything and the space in the middle. And that's the sort of challenge that we are now starting to engage with. So we consider this really important for the future.